Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I have my Adventure is Calling mug today and my Bat Boy fan club Asriel spirit jersey because we're all, if we haven't finished it, we're all neck deep in House of Flame and Shadow right now. And I am no exception. So today's video is going to be my January reading wrap up, where we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in January or that I finished in January. So let's just get into it. So I've kind of mentioned this on my channel already a couple of times with different tags and whatnot, but the first book that I read in January was Merry Kissm by Annika R. Walker. This is in the gift wrapped romance series. And it's just like cute little Christmassy books. They're pretty short, and the author came out with them. She came out with like 5 of them like a week apart. It was kind of insane. I didn't know that at the time. I got this on NetGalley as an audiobook to review early, which I finished it pretty quickly, but I didn't review it super early. Shame on me, but I did do it. And again, I've mentioned this in several different videos, but it was just a cute little kind of fluffy holiday romance. Nothing too, it's not really spicy or anything. It was just kind of cute, and I liked that. That's kind of what I was vibing for at the time, and I ended up finishing this. I started it right after Christmas, but I finished it in January, so there was a little bit of an overlap, but it was cute. I gave it about 3 stars. If you're looking for a cute, mostly drama-less holiday read that feels kind of like a Hallmark type movie book, you know, like when you watch those Hallmark movies at Christmas, I love them. They don't have to be good, they're just enjoyable and festive. If you want something that feels like that, this is kind of the book you're looking for. It's Hallmark, except in this one, the man is the successful big city businessman that comes back to the small town where his ex lives. And things go from there. So it was cute, nothing groundbreaking. And then I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is part of my Buzzword Book Challenge, which is there. I read this because I really want to get into more mystery thriller type books, but it's really hard for me to find ones that I really, really like. And this one was okay. I understand why she's been dubbed like the Queen of Mystery, because she's been writing these for a very long time, and for writing them for so long, it's interesting how she was able to play out the story and make kind of an unsolvable murder until she like reveals it at the end. So that was kind of an interesting way of going about it, and I did like that. Not a bad read, but it is very, very dated. And you can tell, and it made me pretty uncomfortable in several moments because, for instance, there's one character where something happens. One of the characters has died, and one of the female characters starts like getting a little bit hysterical because people are starting to drop dead on this island, and they're realizing that they're all gonna die, basically. Like, that's the plan, even if they can't solve what's happening. So she's kind of coming to terms with this, and she starts like hysterically laughing and kind of like realizing who's next or who will be next, and if there's any bees around, because that's in one of the rhymes. But so she kind of gets a little bit hysterical, which is understandable because she's realizing all of this, and a man like walks up and slaps her to like bring her back to reality, and she goes, "Oh, thank you." And I was just like, okay, all right. Like, we can be hysterical when people are being murdered and we're next. Like, it's okay. But also, maybe don't slap them. And then it was just kind of sexist and annoying. I did like the premise, and I think it was done fairly well. The writing was a little hard to get used to because the POVs would shift so quickly that I didn't know who was talking a lot of the time, which is, I'm not sure if it's more clear when you're reading it, but in the audiobook, it was very unclear, and it was kind of hard for me to keep up with that and catch up because a lot of the names are kind of similar too. So they would switch a POV and I'd be like, wait, what's happening? Who is this? What's happening? Who's talking? Who? And it was kind of like you had to pick up on context clues for a lot of it. So that was a little jarring at times. It wasn't that bad, but it did have like a few moments where I would have to adjust in the switches of the POVs, and the POV switches are very fast. Like, one character might have a page and then it switches to another. It just depends on what's happening. So that was a little hard to get used to, but again, nothing super difficult. Overall, it was interesting. I did, however, make the mistake. I wanted to see when this book first released, like when it was actually first released, not the re-release of the cover that I was looking at, and made the mistake of seeing when it was actually released and seeing what the original title was. And the original title is unacceptable and disgusting and very upsetting. And now I'm like, do I read any more of her books? It just felt kind of weird. I understand that that was the time, but it was still not okay. and it just made me really sad. It made me really sad. I'll read her books with the inspector guy that is on the Murder in the Orient Express. Maybe I should read like those books instead, but it just made me really uncomfortable and really upset me. So I didn't like that very much, but I did end up giving it 3 stars because I didn't realize that at the time. The next book I was able to read was A Duel with the Vampire Lord by Elise Kova. This was on my Sprayed Edges challenge, which I've been slowly going through, and it's been a fun time. This is the 3rd book in the Married to Magic series. I do think I liked this one more because I liked the vampire aspects and the war looming type of aspects. But again, with these books, they're just kind of okay. They're not bad. It's just not the best thing you've ever read. It's not the most groundbreaking. It's not the most intense. There's elements that like keep you intrigued. You want to kind of know the story, but there's nothing in it that's like too extreme or too exciting. So I like the series, but it's just okay. It's just nice to pick up and be able to get through it, you know? Almost like a cozy kind of read, but it's not cozy fantasy at all. Like there are darker elements or, you know, more betrayal elements, what have you. Not saying there's no danger or fights, it's just fine. I liked the vampire aspects, like I said, but I also liked that the main female character was a forge maiden. That was really cool to see that play out because a lot of the heroines up to this point have not been. They've been like princesses or like royal family type people or like a duke, you know, something like that. But this was interesting because she was like a vital part of her society, but she was a forge maiden and only certain people can like to be forge maidens. And I really liked that was part of her character and that ended up coming to play in the story. It wasn't just like something she did. It was like very vital to the story and to plot points later in the book. So I did really enjoy that. And it was good. 3 stars again. I kind of had like it was good, but nothing amazing kind of month for a while where I was just rating everything 3 stars. Then I read Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. This was kind of just a surprise. I knew I was having some extra time in January because I had almost finished everything I wanted to read except for House of Flame and Shadow, and it wasn't out yet. So I was like, well, I might as well read something else. And I ended up picking up this because I got it on hold from my library. And I've been meaning to read this because I really enjoyed the first 2 books. It's not really a series, but it's the same world kind of a thing. Well, it's modern day. You know what I'm saying? It's just a bunch of like the same kind of STEM contemporary romances, but I really liked them so far, and it's been really interesting because it's not ever something I thought I would like, but I really enjoyed them and her writing. I wanted to get to this one, and I finally did, and I liked this one. Surprisingly, I liked this one and the second one more than the first, but the second one is still probably my favorite, but this was really good too. I really appreciated the unfairness in academia and like the job postings that were actually created for one person, but they still let other people interview and think they have a shot. And just like the injustice and frustrating aspects and frustrations of all of that. I liked that came into play and that you get to kind of see that, and she's like really trying to make it in the academic world by becoming tenure or a professor and not an adjunct professor. And you know, those things are a struggle when you have all of the education, all of the experience, all of the degrees that you need, and people still won't cut you a break. Or you're applying for jobs that are meant for specific people. I particularly really identify with that from my experience, and it's really frustrating. So I liked that was kind of talked about, and it was also very humorous and a good story. I liked Jack a lot, and the main character was also really funny, and the side characters were great. I particularly enjoyed her roommate with the hedgehog. Good times. The romance was good. It was spicy, as all of her books are. I liked that it was kind of different in the sense that there was different aspects to the main female character that made him hesitant because he didn't want to feel like she had to perform or feel like she had to change who she was to fit into something he wanted her to be. So I liked that there was dialogue with that and also like hesitancy. But it was good. I gave it 4 stars. And then this popped up on NetGalley and I just thought it was adorable. And so I requested it, got approved, read it, and reviewed it. And it is a children's book, and it is called A Crocodile Should Never Skip Breakfast. And I was just intrigued and had to know. And I'm absolutely counting this as a book I read because I did. But it was so cute and it was really fun. I really liked the illustrations. I really liked how the story progressed. And as someone that does get hangry, I understand. But this was like an adorable children's book about getting hangry and donuts. Sign me up. It was so cute. I gave it 4 stars, even though I feel kind of weird rating a children's book, but it was adorable. I really liked it. It was really fun for me. Check it out if you want. I think it comes out in June. I haven't held up a book this whole time, and then I was able to read and finish What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. Been meaning to get to this one for a little while, and it was a fairy loot book I got, so it counts towards my sprayed edges thing. I really liked this. It was not what I was expecting, and I will say that it took me a minute to get into this book for probably no other reason than my brain just wasn't having it. It was just checking out, and I was struggling to get interested because it was the beginning, right? It's establishing everything, and my brain just wasn't in a space for it, but it got there eventually. The book was really interesting. I loved the excavating versus treasure hunter adventures and danger and drama. That was really fun. I liked the tension between Inez and Wit, which are like the 2 main characters. You do get both of their perspectives, but I would say Wit's is very small. Like, you do get his perspectives, but they're, compared to hers, they're very few. But I really enjoyed both of those characters. They're both pretty deep and have their own motivations. Overall, a really cool story, and the last parts of the book were so intense and crazy. Like insane. Like, I really enjoyed it, but then the last like quarter of the book, I couldn't tell you exactly, but the last like quarter of the book, I was like, whoa, what's happening? Oh my gosh. Like, it was crazy. And I'm very much looking forward to book 2 now, which doesn't come out until like November, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but still something to look forward to. I will say that I had my doubts about who the bad guy, the villain, was, that you were led to believe that they were the villain. I had my doubts about that, and I was right. I don't want to spoil anything, but I was right. And it was probably pretty easy, but I think the author really hammers it in that you're supposed to believe this person's the villain, so just saying. Something I think you should know going into this book, however, is that Egyptian mythology playing a part in this book does not happen. I heard like historical fantasy, and I thought there, and compared to the Mummy, it's like very much compared to the Mummy, which I think is fair, but I thought there would be mythology, like the Egyptian gods coming into play in the world, or, you know, mummies, something like fantastical coming out of this. That is not the case. It is not like that at all. It is very much historical. The fantasy element is almost like magical realism. It's very tame. It's like she touches an object of Cleopatra's and can sense Cleopatra's magic. So it's like she gets past a ring, she puts on the ring, and she can sense Cleopatra, and she can like smell these rose petals, and she can sense these things, and she can see some visions of Cleopatra's history, and she can more likely find the other magical objects that are tied because she can sense the magic. So she can then go and be like, this box covered in dirt is also connected to this. That's the kind of magic you're looking at. It's not explained. It's magical realism kind of. It's very much just more historical and excavating, treasure hunting type situation than it is anything with mythology or like really in-depth magic. It's just that. And I think that's kind of important to know going into it, because I was expecting a lot more fantastical elements in magic and the gods coming into play, but again, it's not the case. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just manage your expectations with that. I still really, really liked it. I'm going to read the second book. It was a good time, and I got really invested in the characters towards the end of the book and am excited to see what happens next. And I did give it 4.5 stars. And the last book I was able to squeeze in before House of Flame and Shadow came out was one of the books in my NetGalley that I've been meaning to get to for a while, and it is To Charm a Dark Prince by Catherine Ann Kingsley, and this is book 1 in the Iron Crystal series. Like I said, I got this on NetGalley, this audiobook on NetGalley to review, and had been meaning to get to it and just hadn't yet. This was fine. You're following a character who it's a portal fantasy kind of a situation. So the main female character is living her life. Her boyfriend just cheated on her or something in modern day, and then a fire happens in her home with this cat, her cat, and she ends up getting teleported into this fantasy realm. And it is Avalon. So it's like King Arthur, but it's not what you've been told. And so like the myths have been twisted by society where she lives, and the myths are a little bit different in this world. But you do have like Galahad, Lancelot, and other characters that you would be familiar with if you know the King Arthur tale. So she's in this world, and Merlin is her cat's name, but she doesn't know if it's actually Merlin, and that's just the name she gave him. It's like a whole thing. And he's basically saying that this dark prince is evil and that they have to take him down, and he wants her help because she now has this magic because she's tied to this cat who's like a soul that was trapped in the crystal. And he has magic, but he's trapped in this cat's body now. And she's tied to him. And so like they feel each other's pain, and she has magic because of that. So they think she's kind of like the chosen one to help them get out of that situation. So she's supposed to take down this dark prince, but the more she learns about the dark prince, the more she doesn't understand who's right and who's wrong in this situation. And he's like got some servants that are willing to turn against him, and other ones that think maybe he was right in what he did. So that's kind of what she's navigating as she gets into this fantastical world. But then she also starts falling for the dark prince. And it was fine. It was an easy read. Some of the dialogue made me laugh. It was funny. It was an interesting take on the Arthurian legend mixed with like elemental magic and other magic. I'm not certain at this point if I will continue the series, but it was all right. Not a lot of complaints really. I really liked the iron metal magic that was at play with like having metal dragons, I think. I couldn't really piece together. I think they're like not just metal with like magic. I think they're actually dragons, but they have like metal on them. It was kind of crazy to think about. But the idea was that you could reanimate souls and then put them in like suits of armor. But he also had his own iron magic that he could have like claws, but then he could take that away and he would look just like a man. And like the metal creatures like the dragons were really cool. I liked the idea of it. It kind of reminded me of Suitor Armor from Webtoons, that like comic. So reanimating souls and then making them like these armor people that serve you is kind of crazy. So it was an interesting premise, like cool ideas. I liked the magic. I liked a lot of things about it. But at this point in time, I'm not sure if that's the series that I want to continue when I have so many things to read. But I will keep it on my radar. I did like this book. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was a good time. Just not sure if I want to continue. Well, those are all the books that I was able to read in January. Not a bad month, but not a great month. And of course, I started A House of Flame and Shadow, but we're still reading that. I would love to know what you read in January if you want to comment it down below, or if you have any suggestions for me. But as for now, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.